dreamscape of windswept swirling dunes. Isolated, inhospitable, diverse, vibrant, and alive. Deserts, seascapes, and boundlessness. Namibia holds a rare set of rewards for adventurous spirits. Named after the oldest desert in the world, the cold water carried by the Benguela Current meets the hot, dry air of the Namib Desert. The Skeleton Coast is one of the most famed and feared stretches of coastline in the world. Through the centuries, the unpredictable currents and dense fog made this a graveyard for ships and whales. At Cape Cross, the breeding colonies of Cape fur seals teem with the bleating sounds of babies and mothers trying to find one another among the multitudes. Fog is the only source of moisture for many of the plants that eke out an existence in this forbidding environment. The ancient fossil plant Welwitschia is found in this region. Swakopmund, Namibia's second biggest town and traditional summer capital, has elaborate colonial architecture with Bavarian spires, seaside promenades, and palm-blind streets. Swakopmund exudes romance and history, a rich cultural melting pot of old and new. It's the place to get some rest, great places to stay, and recreation. There's plenty to do: sandboarding and skiing, quad biking, angling, some of the best in Africa. In the north lies the Etosha Pan, an enormous alluvial basin that has long since lost the lake it once held. Great herds of antelope species, including gemsbok, impala, springbok, zebra, and, most famously, elephants. It is said to have the tallest elephants in Africa. Many other species of wildlife abound as well, and the Etosha Pan is now the center of one of the finest game parks on the African continent. Etosha is also known for its endemic species of black-faced impala. The park is well recognized as being one of the last wild sanctuaries of the endangered black rhino. The Etosha National Park and Game Reserve is one of the finest in Africa in that it remains to a large extent free of human influence. The gemsbok or oryx is a powerful-looking antelope with a well-defined pattern on the head and body. They're nomadic in nature, their battles not so much about territory as about who's the toughest. Aggressive displays are used by the males to establish the dominance hierarchy. The contested resource is usually an estrus female or water. These animals will also dig up to a meter to find tubers and roots. The horns are effective weapons. In fighting, the head is lowered between the forelegs in order to impale the enemy. Grasslands and bush support a fabulous diversity of wildlife. The Etosha Pan is simply amazing. The sand dunes of Sossusvlei in the Namib Desert, with its soft, colorful sands, will engulf, enthrall, and inspire you. The world's highest sand dunes, Sossusvlei is surely one of the most spectacular sights in Namibia. Set deep within the dune sea of the Namib Desert, an unbroken immensity all the way to the coast, Sossusvlei is actually one of a number of small evaporation pans at the end of the Sohawk River Valley. It has to be one of the most photogenic locations in the world, and yet you get a sense of solitude while climbing these dunes. Wind continuously reshapes the patterns of the huge dunes of the Namib Desert. It is set in the Namib Nokluft Park, the largest conservation area in Africa. The Sossusvlei does fill with water only about every 10 years. Damaraland is beautiful and scenic. Prehistoric water courses with open plains and grassland. Massive granite kopjes, spectacular desert vistas, and distant mountains create the landscape. Social weaver nests and plants that live for hundreds of years. Game species include zebra, desert elephant, black rhino, oryx, and springbok. Famous for its rare desert elephants and free-roaming black rhino, Damaraland is one of the few places in southern Africa where magnificent wildlife can be found outside of national parks and coexist with traditional villages and farms. King or queen, this majestic cat needs to be part of a pride. Lions are intensely social, and prides endure for years. The lioness in a typical pride does 80 to 90% of the hunting. A male lion's job in a pride is to protect his territory. As all animals do, they communicate in a unique and special way. Females are the center of lion society. They are the hunters, cub rearers, property owners, and defenders. The magic of Twyfelfontein is the profusion of prehistoric rock engravings dating back at least 6,000 years. It has few equals in the world. These petroglyphs are depicted on sandstone and include ostrich, giraffe, buffalo, zebra, rhinoceros, elephant, human, and animal footprints. It is dominated by giraffe. One of the most extensive galleries of rock engravings in the world. More than 2,000 petroglyphs have been counted here, and the Valley of Twyfelfontein was proclaimed a national monument. The nearby Bird Mountain is a volcanic rock formation known as the Organ Pipes. Kaokoland is described as Africa's last great wilderness. It is called the land God made in anger. The mountain ranges are rugged and impressive. Most of the region is only available in four-wheel drive vehicles. The Kunene River runs through this arid landscape, the only permanent source of water in the region. It forms Namibia's border with Angola. The scenery at Apupa Falls is enchanting. Perennially flowing waters, baobab and palm trees line the riverbed. Above the waterfalls, you find nice pools for swimming, but beware of crocodiles. The nomadic Himba tribe eke out an existence in this harsh land. They still live according to ancient customs and traditions, unchanged over 3 centuries. Clad in goatskin and jewelry fashioned from leather, metal, and shells, they protect and adorn their bodies with red ochre and goat fat, which creates an intense reddish glow. The Himba are amongst the most beautiful people in sub-Saharan Africa. They live in scattered settlements throughout Kaokoland. These friendly people are closely related to the Herero and speak the same language.